I have to be honest. I don't really like Survivor Series 2003 all that much. I just really, really don't. I mean, this is a show with only one of the two world titles at the time being defended. Some of the things they were doing with certain characters I didn't particularly care for. They were, even on this show, though, trying to build up guys for the future, which is all fine and good, but just a lot of things I don't like when I go back and watch Survivor Series 2003. I do like, however, that it had multiple traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series tag matches. That I like. You know, Team Angle versus Team Lesnar. This was obviously being set up as a John Cena showcase piece. You were trying to get him ready for the future, and frankly, you were getting his teammate that no longer exists in terms of the history of the WWF ready as WWE ready as well. And that's what they did. They accomplished what they wanted to accomplish with this match. But when I see a 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series match, and it doesn't even go 15 minutes, that's just not good. It becomes too much of a schmaz, and it feels more like a 10-man tag match on Raw. And that's not what I think you should be going for when you're talking about doing a traditional Survivor Series elimination tag match. The Survivor Series match, 5-on-5, and didn't even go 15 minutes. I realized that you had to cut it a little short with guys like Matt Morgan and Nathan Jones and A-Train on Team Lesnar, this team of fucking monsters and powerhouses. But at the same point in time, man, crime on Nitley. You would expect a lot better. I really don't like Kane versus Shane McMahon in the ambulance match. I hated what they were doing with Kane's character at the time. It pissed me off so much. You take his mask and then you don't put the title on him. You've got him electrocuting Shane in the nuts, and you've got him doing a whole bunch of stupid bullshit. It was just dumb. It was just bad. Just bad. And I've always hated this storyline. And you would think involving Kane and Shane McMahon that this would have been so much better. But I just hated it. Hated so many things about this. I just really, really did. A tag title match was underwhelming. You had the Basham brothers, two of your OVW guys that they were big on at the time. You had them beat Los Guerreros. And I understand what they were doing. They were getting ready to split off Eddie, into bigger things. They maybe didn't know just how big they were going to need him in a couple of months, but they were going to split them off, and so be it. You were behind the Basham brothers at the time. Again, so be it, but a match that wasn't really anything to write home about. And then you even get Team Bischoff versus Team Austin. And this one had more big-time players in it. And this, in a lot of ways, ended up being a bit of a Randy Orton showcase piece. And that was okay at the time. You're trying to build new stars like you were doing with John Cena on one end. You were doing it here in this Bischoff versus Austin match by having Randy Orton being the sole survivor, having him last eliminate Shawn Michaels. But again, it was just one of these matches, even though the match itself was actually pretty good. To me, this was the best match on the Survivor Series card. It never really worked for me. It never really clicked for me. I was never really a big fan of having both Austin and Bischoff on Raw at the same time. I always thought that was kind of stupid. It's just me. So, Austin's team losing, I was actually kind of happy it happened, believe it or not. And that wasn't really, I think, the intention. But you look at the match, you have Jericho, Christian, Orton, Steiner, Mark Henry on one team, Michaels, RVD, Booker T, the Dudleys on the other team. So you had some good, decent talent on this. And like I said, to me, this was the best match on the card. But, I didn't really care about the storyline or the stipulation heading into it. And then you get to Vince McMahon versus The Undertaker in the Buried Alive match. And at least I can say this. What I like about this is the fact that when Kane gets involved, it plants the seed and it begins the process of going towards Kane versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 20. So at least this match was done with something in design for later on down the road, and that's great. And especially because this match did one thing, if nothing else, and I'm glad it was Vince that did it. Because apparently Vince never liked the American Badass Biker Taker. And amen, brother, I'm fucking with you. I hated that shit. And to me, Survivor Series 2003, the highlight of the night for me, the one thing that I really enjoy about this show is seeing Undertaker's ass getting buried because that represents the end of that stupid American badass biker gimmick. And it meant that I was going to get the return of the real Undertaker, in my opinion, the Dead Man Undertaker, the only Undertaker that I truly give a fuck about. And I knew that when they were burying him alive here, that's where they were going. I knew that they realized and understood that the time had come to get away from this and to go back. And man, I was pumped. And man, I was excited. Because I couldn't fucking wait. Because I had had it with this shit. Enough was enough, and it was time for a change, in my opinion. So I'm glad it was Vince that was the one to sit there and beat him and put his own little stamp on it and say, fuck this character, it's stupid. I don't know if he needed to talk heading into the match about having his wife getting raped and stuff. That might have been a bit overboard. I don't know if I hated the Taker gimmick that much. But, you know, that's the highlight of this show to me. That's the thing I always remember about Survivor Series 2003 is Vince McMahon versus Taker in a buried alive match. And just as so often the case is with Vince McMahon matches, they're not visual masterpieces, but they're effective and they got the job done. And this match really got the job done for me on so many different levels. And then, of course, you get to the main event, the World Heavyweight Championship match between Goldberg and Triple H. I was always surprised here that Goldberg actually went over Triple H. I was always had this fear in my mind, in the back of my mind, heading into Survivor Series 2003 when I bought the show. And yes, unfortunately, I bought this show back 11 years ago. That Triple H was going to find a way to politic and go over on Goldberg. Now, he did it soon enough anyways, down the road. I always thought Triple H was going to go over Goldberg here. I really, really did. I was surprised, frankly, that it didn't happen. You know, when you look back on Goldberg's one-year run in the WWE, I don't know if it really could have been more. And I don't want to sit there and say that the WWE didn't get behind him and didn't try with him, because I most certainly feel that they did try with him. But I don't know if they ever got it with him. And I don't think they ever understood it with him. And I don't think they ever did a good enough job of trying to get the WWE fan base to understand Goldberg. And frankly, when I look at Goldberg and his work and his performance during this time, I really just look at it and say he was there to get a paycheck for a year, and he really freaking flat out didn't give a shit. Which is a shame, because I thought Goldberg was a good addition at the time in 2003. Austin's not going to be in the ring anymore. Rock is pretty much being phased out. You need anybody and everybody with a big name that you could possibly get in the mix. So you got the chance to bring in Goldberg. You know, I was hopeful and I was excited. I liked Goldberg, and I wanted him to do more, and I wanted him to do better. And there was just always something off. And there was always just something amiss with Goldberg and his year-long run in the WWE. Even though they made him the champion, they had him beat Triple H and do all this shit, it's still one of the more disappointing character runs that I've seen for an individual in the WWE over the past 15 to 20 years. And there's no question in my mind about it. And they made him the champion. And they had him beat God. And I'm still disappointed. Maybe it was unrealistic expectations. Maybe it was hoping it was going to be so much more. But I always felt like it was a bit of an unmitigated forced disaster. And that's just my opinion. So Survivor Series 2003, like I said, you know, some of the storylines heading into it I didn't really care about. They were doing an okay job of building up for the future with guys like, you know, John Cena, Randy Orton. So that's a positive thing. But some of the things, you know, like Bischoff versus Team Austin, I didn't care about. Kane versus Shane McMahon, I most certainly didn't care about. And then when it gets to the thing that I care about the most, I care the most about one of my favorites of all time losing because it represented the end of his damn gimmick. And it represented a change of going back to the old ways. That's not good. This is not that good of a show. It's not one you need to break your neck to try and go seek out on the WWE Network and go watch, I assure you.